Hi, we're here today with Cosmo Condina, the talented photographer whose images make up Niagara 1812 at war. It's a fabulous book, and we're thrilled that Cosmo has agreed to chat with us today about his work. Cosmo, what did you learn about the War of 1812 while you were photographing for this book?
Well, Liz, because I grew up here, I thought I knew a lot of facts about the War of 1812, and but as time went on, I started to realize, the facts of history that we were taught are really written by the victors, and so I really started to understand the role that the natives, the First Nations, played, and that's what I really started to appreciate and understand what the natives did.
And was that the most surprising thing? And what was it about that role that surprised you?
Well, first of all, we think of the war as a battle between Britain and the United States. And at the very beginning of the war, if it wasn't for, say, Tecumseh allying with Brock, I don't think he would have had the impetus to keep to go on, because he was outnumbered with troops. And so I really think the natives are the ones that did the best for Britain, and because they didn't get to write the history, I think they were left out. And so it was always, what did the British do and what did the Americans do? And so I really think it was the First Nations that are left out of the history books.
The First Nations contribution to the War of 1812 is a really fascinating part of the story. Are there portraits in the book that you are particularly fond of, that you think really tell that story well?
At the very beginning of this project, I started to photograph the First Nations because I really found them fascinating. Especially, one of my favorites is this person here, who almost has an African look to them, the way the plumes are, and the way they do their war paint. And another version is this portrait of this First Nations native that I shot over at Fort Niagara. And what I really like is the determination that you see in their eyes. And it's like this contact with your eyes, and it shows how proud they still are. And at the very end of the war, there was the Treaty of Ghent, and there was an article, I think it was called Article 9. And it was to promise that all the territory and all their rights were to be restored as they were at the beginning of the war. And what happened was the Americans didn't uphold that. The British were so tired of continuing the hostilities here in North America that they abandoned them. And so at the very end, the First Nations really lost everything that they had to gain from joining this war.
So, Cosmo, I'm guessing that there's one sequence in this book that is really emotional for you, something that really tells a story that you think readers will grab. Can you show me what it is?
One sequence that really stands out for me is where I see a young kid who's observing the war. And it's not something that I could have planned, but I was standing behind him. I was on the field, dressed also, and I see him looking at this battle scene, and then I see a commander here pointing to him, telling him to run somewhere, and I just kept watching him. And then there's more activity on the field, and then I see him fall, and he's died, he's dead. And I thought that was really poignant because, here he is, he could be like 14 years old, 15 years old, and here he is caught in a battle scene, and he's a victim. And just like today, there's so many young kids who end up in war that shouldn't be there.
Your book is full of absolutely stunning images. What are your favorites? Which are the ones that really resonate with you?
Well, I think one that really stands out for me is the one that really started me on this project, and it was the explosion of the gunpowder magazine at Fort Erie. And when you see this, you really feel like, my God, is this really a reenactment, or is it for real? And that is an explosion that took place, I believe, August 13 or 14, 1814, where the gunpowder blows up and 150 to 250 men die. And it's such a spectacle, and there's you can feel the heat off this explosion, and I won't be able to pull it off right now here, but there we go.
Wow, look at that.
So, when you see something like that, you know that they're not just playing games.
and this is a reenactment that takes place each summer, isn't it?
It takes place each summer on the anniversary of the Siege of Fort Erie, which is usually the first weekend of August.
And that's another great reason to come to Niagara.
Naturally, in Niagara.